Just taking a moment to call on the energy of the cards and any messages that need to come through both to me or anybody else on this transmission. Let this tarot reading be clear, and may it serve all who are tuning in. So I tend to pull 3 cards, and I pulled a past, present, and future card this time around. I pulled from the Tarot of the Divine deck. I felt that this was appropriate, being the priestess, goddess type of energy with this new moon in Virgo. So our past card, I actually pulled reversed. This is the reversed 4 of Cups. It's the story of the nightingale. And cups always represent emotions. 4 of Cups can represent a kind of sense of jealousy. It's the grass is always greener on the other side type of vibe. And, you know, being tuned into social media more than ever now, I think that this, you know, this is a card that is showing us that we have been comparing ourselves unnecessarily. We've been, you know, isolated more. We haven't been out as much. And so we've been only projecting probably the best version of ourselves, or mostly the best version of ourselves, on social media. And with that becomes, you know, a feeling of a need to compare to others to see how they're doing. Or, you know, if we're feeling like we're in a panic state, well, why isn't Sally in a panic state? Or why, you know, if I'm not doing successful financially, why is Jim doing so successful financially? You know, we get into kind of this comparison game. And this is a past card, this reversed 4 of Cups. So it's saying, hey, you know, you might think that everybody else has it better than you, or everybody else has a better life, or better things than you, better relationships, whatever. But the truth is, you're going to see down the road that you had things going good too. You just didn't see it because you were too busy looking on the other side of the fence. So this reversed 4 of Cups is asking you to, you know, tune within and maybe ask yourself why you feel that way, if you are feeling that way. I talked about a quote. I write up the tarot readings, by the way. They're on my website, and I'll put that up by tomorrow. But there's a quote by Theodore Roosevelt. Comparison is the thief of joy. And it truly is. We have to embrace the gifts that we have in our own life, the value that we have in our own life, because hindsight is always 20/20, right? And we'll look back and say, man, we had a gift and we just didn't see it, right? Usually that is the gift of time. And the past card usually does represent kind of this like time concept of past, present, future, right? So these past 18 months or 2 years or longer, many of us have been very isolated. We've had to do things different professionally. We've had to do things different socially. We have been home more. And we might have looked at that as a curse rather than a blessing. But the truth is, we probably have more isolation to go through and more times of just being with ourselves in the future. So we need to look back at this time we've already had and say, what are the gifts I uncovered? Or what are the things I could have uncovered or could have developed or created out of that sacred space and time, that sacred pause where I didn't have so much else to do with my usual routine or my usual life. You know, sometimes we need to be turned upside down so that we take a different perspective. So this reversed 4 of Cups is simply asking you to reflect, to look back, to find the value, to find the gifts, and to not make the same mistake moving forward, to really find the value in your life instead of always attaching to the comparison, the negative comparison of others' lives. So for our present card, I also pulled a reversed card. I pulled the 8 of Wands. And the 8 of Wands are a symbol of alchemy. 8 is the symbol of infinity. And we are in a serious retrograde period right now. There are 5 cosmic bodies in retrograde and more to come. And, you know, we're kind of in this infinite loop of karmic time right now. Again, speaking on time. This is the Virgo new moon. This is the moon where we're drawn back into reality. The reality of our human body and the repercussions of our actions and how we've been living. It's also a time that we're invited back into our human experience to also reflect on the life we've been living and whether we've been working towards our intentions and higher self or not. And there can be a little bit of restlessness and boredom that comes with the reversed Eight of Wands. You know, Eight of Wands represents quick change, decision, action, getting things done. But when it's reversed, it's the opposite. So this is a time where, you know, things are slowing down, or you may feel stuck. You might feel like a bird caught in the wind. You may not know where to go from here. The moon is in the nakshatra of Purva Palguni, right? In Vedic astrology. It's a symbol of blind faith towards growth, development, and creation. So this reversed Eight of Wands is telling us with this new moon to go into the darkness, to dive into the shadows, to dive into the unknown, to get excited about the passions and pursuits that you could take, but don't worry about how to get there. Just kind of get into it. Get your hands dirty. Get lost in the journey and see what you discover along the way, because you never know. When you kind of break free of your typical schedule and routine, you might discover something brand new that supports you in a better way. Finally, for our future card, I pulled an upright card. I pulled the Three of Swords. I've been pulling a lot of swords for our future cards, and this is no different. The swords are a time of detachment, release, letting go, breaking bonds, cutting cords. The three is related to relationship. I believe that this card is telling us that there's going to be some shakeups and breakups in the future. Venus is going to be moving into Scorpio, the sign of the underworld, the sign of death. She's also going to be opposing Uranus, the planet of revolution, shakeups, and breakups. So I think that as we move forward, we need to be really careful of our actions, asking ourselves how they not only affect us, but the relationships around us. I think that this is also a kind of a guidance for us to, it's an invitation for us to cut ties with toxic relationships, toxic ties, toxic attachments. This doesn't have to just be people. It can also be attachments to other things, but I think it's ultimately pertaining to relationships with people, and especially romantic relationships. So I think we're going to see some romantic relationships break up. I think we're going to see some divorce. I think we're going to see some of those things over the next month or so. But, you know, any relationship that you lose along this journey, know that it's creating space for something better. It's creating space for something new. And it's so hard to see that at the time. This could literally be death as well. You might experience like an actual literal death of somebody that you love. Might just be a friend or family member or something. It might just be somebody you cherish, like a guru or a famous person. But there's some loss, some separation coming in relationship in the future. And it's really training for everything to come. You know, we're shifting into this new age. We're going to start gravitating towards more like-minded individuals. And with that, there's probably going to be some severing of some old bonds and relationships that were tied to the old world, the old ways, and that Capricornian like type of thinking that was in that old age. So I've experienced this in my own life. I've definitely, I wouldn't say let go, but some relationships have just dissolved that were pretty powerful and pretty strong, 2 years ago. But differences of opinion, right? And that's what's happening right now. So Three of Swords is just saying, hey, you're going to have to cut some ties. You're going to have to break some bonds, and you really need to detach from the holding on of it. You've got to let go so that you can create room for something more, something good, something better. So just to recap for our past card, the reversed Four of Cups tells us that hindsight is always 20/20, and you are going to regret what you don't find value in. Stop comparing yourself to others and start valuing your life as it is right now. Present card, the reversed Eight of Wands, bringing us into the energy of this retrograde season, this Virgo new moon, a time of new beginnings, but a time of maybe developing more patience, embracing that everything has an action and reaction. And right now we are simply in a time of discovery. It's a time to dive into the darkness and shadows and see what you uncover when you let go of being so tied into doing the same thing over and over. And for the future, the Three of Swords says, cut the ties, cut the cords, create space for new, get rid of what is penetrating your energy in a toxic or traumatic way.